Okay.
Hey, welcome, Jenny. It is so lovely to have you here on Handmaid to Heroine. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to chat with you. I've been waiting for this for a while. It's great.
Super cool. Thank you so much for being willing to share your story. But before we begin, before we start asking important questions, I just wanted to, first of all, ask a statement of intention. So, if we could wave a magic wand right now and have the outcome that we want, like the intention, what would that intention be for you with this?
It would be for people to learn that no matter what outside people, belief systems, anything's telling you, you are good enough. You are enough as you are, and don't listen to what the haters are saying.
Love it. Thank you. Thank you. May it be. And, so I'm going to also ask for a fun or outrageous safe word. So if we verge in a territory and you're like, well, talk about that, so then we can just say, oh, giraffe or whatever your word. So what's your safe word today?
It's fluffernutter.
Is there any particular reason for fluff or nutter? Is it because what?
It's fun to say. I watched the movie Elvis recently, and I think wasn't he a big fan of fluffernutter
Oh,
sandwiches? Or I don't know, some kind of sandwich that had,
maybe
yeah, wasn't good for him.
was it peanut butter, bananas, and bacon?
Oh, that maybe that's it. That
But
sounds right.
fluffernutter, wasn't that the like the marshmallow fluff? Like
Okay, yes.
that and peanut butter made a fluffernutter sandwich.
Okay, I've never had a fluffernutter, but I might have to try one.
Oh, I loved them as a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially with crunchy peanut butter and then the marshmallow stuff. I mean, there's nothing good for you about it, but it certainly is tasty.
Oh, that sounds amazing. Oh, might be
That's
heading
a
to the store for
fluffernutter.
this.
So now this is a thing now. Fluffernutter. Okay.
Fluffernutter.
So, and I just want to be clear about this handmade to heroin. I've interviewed people. Um, Someone was from a yoga, Kundalini yoga sex cult. There are people who have come from very conservative, kind of fundamentalist Christian backgrounds. We have people from all over. So,
Mm.
where, what kind of high demand authoritarian group did you find yourself in?
Well, I was born and raised Mormon slash LDS.
Mhm.
Uh, from my whole family, I'm the youngest of eight. My whole family is essentially still all in. My oldest brother left. I have a sister who I believe is on the way out as well. But between eight kids, my parents, 30 plus grandkids, and everyone is mostly still in. So I feel like I'm on getting to the majority of people in general. But as far as the religious aspect, I feel like most people leave, and my family's kind of on the opposite spectrum where everyone is still mostly in. And so it's makes family reunions interesting. We'll just say that.
Oh, I'll bet. I'll bet. And my family of origin, I'm the outlier.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very much the outlier.
Yes, me too.
Yes, yes. So you were brought up in it,
Mhm.
you're doing your thing. What was the biggest pain point for you as you were coming along?
For me, when my brother left, my oldest brother left when I was maybe a young, like 10, 15, 12, somewhere around there. And for me, seeing the hurt that that caused my mom was hard. She cried so much, and I saw that reaction to it. And even at that young age, I didn't really enjoy religion. I didn't enjoy going to church. And as I got to my teenage years, it was even more so. I didn't recognize it at the time, but it led to a lot of depression, self
Mm.
harm eventually, and it just,
But can I stop you just a second,
yeah.
Jenny? So, what were some of those things that you could recognize now? If you could look at yourself back in that period of time, you mentioned some kind of behaviors that you didn't recognize as depression.
Mhm.
What are some of those that you've come to learn about?
Just there's a lot of anger, a lot of self hatred, a lot of suicidal ideation that my dad was a doctor and he saw this depression in me, but as far as having it addressed by another professional, that would never happened. I was given the option of my parents saw my journal when I was pretty young, and they just thought it was so full of anger and hatred, and my dad gave me the option of going to therapy or starting to take antidepressants. And the therapist he wanted me to see was in our ward, and when I was struggling with my beliefs, I definitely
Mhm.
did not wanna talk to someone in the ward because I didn't want that getting back to my parents. There was always consequences tied to not going through with, church. It was, if you don't go to church, you're not going to have a car to drive. Basically, I know my parents loved me and they did the best they could, but there were so many consequences tied to church. And if I didn't go to church, there was this consequence. And so I never felt like I had the safe space to say, I don't think I believe in this. This belief system isn't for me. It was just I had to go and just kind of keep my mouth shut because I saw what happened when my brother left. It caused so much pain and hurt in my family.
I'm sorry. A question though, you said you needed to go, well, you want your folks sent you to go see a therapist, but it had to be someone in your ward.
Hmm.
And and to people who aren't familiar with Mormonism, ward's kind of like your church, right? Or
Yeah, it's your kind of your church congregation.
okay.
It's a couple hundred people, give or take, and you've got the LDS churches. In Idaho where I grew up, it was very very prominent religion, and so multiple wards would meet in a church just at different times. They'd rotate throughout the days. Mormonism was 3 hours at the time, 3 hour church block, plus activities throughout the week, and it definitely felt like just keep you busy so you can't really focus on anything else. Just that lots of indoctrination. But yeah.
Thank you. The
Mhm.
question though, you mentioned something, if I understood you correctly, about how you couldn't really tell how you felt to this therapist because it would get back to your parents. Did I hear you correctly?
So I never actually saw the therapist. I was
Okay.
given an ultimatum by my dad that was, go see a therapist or start antidepressants. And I started taking, I think it was St. John's Wort, what he started me out
Mhm.
on. And so I started taking the St. John's Wort. And it would help for a little bit, and then we try something new, and that would help for a little bit. But at the end of the day, it was definitely a situational depression
Mhm.
where I just was in a situation that wasn't healthy for me emotionally.
Got that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hmm.
So, was there a point in time when you felt like you were in a cult, or was it just a high demand religious situation, or do you see a distinction between the two?
Oh, that is a good question. I definitely see the Mormon church as a cult. I think there's just so much deep indoctrination. Um, I think I've heard it described as cult light, which I think is appropriate. I've also loved the Simpsons episode where they call Mormonism is America's most respectable cult. Um, because
Didn't know
Mormon,
that, but
yeah,
they Simpsons have been on it with so many things.
they have, and I find that hilarious because I think it's so true. Mormons are known for being very nice, uh, but in my experience, it's we're nice because we kind of want you to join our religion. So I think there is some overlap with a cult and a high demand religion. I think anything that's
Mhm.
asking you to commit so much of your time and energy and resources, I think, that could be described as a cult, even if it's a high demand religion.
I hear you. I'm yeah, just asking questions. So when was the first time you realized it was time to leave?
um, I guess for me, I never really had that like big eye opening moment of this isn't for me. I never had that what they call the shelf breaking where there's just so much bad information that you just realize,
Uh-huh.
oh crap, this is not true. For me, it was just
Yeah.
something I never had enjoyed. I just remember little things along the way. Misogyny from a young age, even though I wasn't able to see it as misogyny. So in Mormonism, you get married in the temple, and that is for time and all eternity. When a female partner dies, the husband can get remarried to and sealed. They call it sealed for time and all eternity. That he can be sealed to as many women, as he wants to marry. But the female, she could only have be sealed to one person. I believe that's changed now. But at the time, I saw that, and I remember asking my mom about it. There was someone in our ward whose first husband died. She got
Mm,
remarried to the second husband, had all of her children with the second husband. And there was, I know someone else whose wife died. He got remarried and was able to be sealed to his second wife. And I asked my mom, well, why is it the woman
mm.
can't be sealed, but the man can? And my mom's like, well, God will figure it out. I don't know. And to me, that was just not a very satisfying response. It just kind of got those wheels turning of why are women less than? Why are women not as equal? Why don't they have the same rights as men in this religion?
Question. So the widow who
Mhm.
remarried, not being able to get sealed,
Mhm.
what was taught about, what meaning was that given? Like, how is that a disparity? You know what I mean? It's like, how is
Yeah.
it unequal?
So in my view, she was married to her first husband. I don't believe they had any kids. But the second husband, she had all of her kids with him. And the fact that, she'd be spending time in all eternity with her first husband, even, and she couldn't be spending time in all eternity with her second husband because of that sealing process, she couldn't be sealed to that second husband, even though they had kids together. And that was her, the partner she spent most of her time with on earth.
I wonder what that would do. I mean, neither of us have been in that position, but I wonder what that would do for one's affections. Like, I know someone right now who's fostering a dog for her brother,
Hmm.
and she loves the dog and she takes great care of it, and it's all wonderful. But at the end of the day, it's his dog. And so
Yeah.
there's not that same level of connection. And I'm not comparing spouses to dogs, or but there's, I wonder what that does to one's affections and to the way one approaches relationship. And it's like, okay, you're not my forever dude. You're my Mr. Right. You're Mr. Right now. You're not Mr.
Yeah.
Right because he croaked.
Yeah. So that is an excellent question. I don't know. I think just in the belief system, you're raised that this is how it is. You don't question.
Right.
Um, and I think, the go-to response is God will figure it out. Um,
Right. But meanwhile,
so
we have this rule.
yeah,
Okay. Excuse me. Man, kitty. Yeah. Sorry.
I had to throw my kitties in the other room. Now they're howling.
If I close the door, I have two. Tiger Lily will scratch at the carpeting by the door, so I can't, they love us and we love them. So thank you.
Mhm.
So time to go. You're seeing the disparities.
Yeah.
Was there another experience you had or witnessed of what you feel is misogyny that kind of got you going, okay, wait a minute, you know?
I Nothing specific. Um, I think it's just the way the women are treated. Actually, I do have a story. I was a family reunion years ago, and the women were at the grocery store shopping for food and everything. The men in the family had a tea time, and the men were calling us while we were at the grocery store. Where are you at? You guys got to come home and watch the kids. And I made the comment, why is it the men's fun time is to go golfing? The
Mhm.
women were shopping for groceries. And
Mhm.
that just kind of blew up. Like it turned into a religious discussion. I think just because I grew up in Utah, the heart of Mormonism,
Right.
and most of the family is outside of Utah, they don't necessarily see that sexism and the misogyny the way I do. Like working here, living here, I've felt it in the job space. I've felt it just in general, and it's not fun feeling like you're less than or being treated less than
No,
because you're a woman.
no, it's not. I've been there,
And
done that. No,
yeah,
not in the
um,
slightest. It
and
happens in families. Sorry,
it
I don't
does.
want to put words in your mouth.
No, it does, and it's sad that people don't recognize it as the damaging thing that it is. It's being raised from a little girl to maybe not blatantly be taught that you're less than, but kind of subconsciously being raised that you're less than, and you need to be submissive to a man for your eternal salvation, essentially.
Submissive to a spouse, submissive to all men. Who were women expected to be submissive to?
So this is my understanding of the afterlife in Mormonism, that a there's 3 degrees of glory in Mormonism in the afterlife. And at the top degree, celestial kingdom, there's 3 degrees within that, or 3 levels within that. And in order for a woman to get to the very, very highest level, she has to be married to a man who can pull her through the veil, I guess. I could be wrong on the specifics there, but that was my understanding is even if you're a woman who isn't married, you can't get to that top degree unless there's a man there to pull you through.
To get you through. So if you've
Yeah.
got ovaries, you're at a loss.
Yeah, essentially. Yep.
Um, wow.
Yeah, and I feel like I've always been a very independent person. That idea of having to rely on someone else, especially a man, for eternal salvation, why?
Right. The same God that made all the animals and everything else. And it's like, really? Really?
Yeah, I picture Christian God kind of like Trump, just this figure that I've got all the say, don't question me, do what I say, otherwise you're kind of SOL. And yeah.
Well, I think that's some of the appeal. While we're being straightforward, I think that's been some of his appeal. I think there are a lot of people who want a theocracy and they're projecting
Mhm.
what they think they'll get from that on to this crook.
Mhm.
And, even like the time he was holding up that Bible in front of the church for the photo op, he had it upside down. Like,
Yeah.
you probably, you know, eh,
Yeah.
people like you and I have read at least our versions of it through and through,
Mhm.
and then there he is, yeah, it was a moment. But I
Yeah.
think people are projecting that on their idea of an authoritarian theocracy and this glorious moment when everybody believes the same thing, which is never going to happen.
Yep.
And it's all going to be wonderful according to their definition of wonderful. And we know that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, throughout all of history, throughout every civilization in all of history, like there are differences.
Mhm.
And that's a good thing.
Exactly. And I feel like Mormonism teaches people you have to be one size fits all. And that's your way to heaven, is being one size fits all. You have to check these boxes, dot these I's, cross these T's in order to get to heaven. And it's basically this cookie cutter pattern. And to try to force everyone to be the same when we are so different, it's just asking for trouble.
It is. It's interesting. Okay, I have a question about. I'm just gonna. This isn't exactly related, but I'm burning with curiosity about something. Um, my brother and his family are Mormon. Uh,
Mhm.
we were brought up Catholic, so he converted in high school, and I was visiting, and they live outside of Salt Lake City, and I was visiting, and the weirdest thing kept happening, and it really just kind of was a curiosity to me at the time, especially because it happened so repeatedly with so many different people. And it's like, we have a pattern I don't understand. There's something missing here, but it's like, and I chose to stay in a hotel instead of under their roof.
Mhm.
And I was going to help with some family business. And at one point I went and I think I got my nails done. And I came back and they said, wow, you were gone for a couple hours. Where did you go? Which location? What did you go somewhere else? Did you get something to eat? Where did you go? Like, what was your time? I'm thinking, what the hell? I'm a grown woman here, but it was like I wasn't holding up a bank. I was just doing my own thing for a couple hours.
Yeah.
But it was very strange. It was like were you really? There was almost that vibe like, who cares?
Yeah.
Is there some kind of thing I'm missing, or might that be a unique family thing?
Oh, that is a it might be a unique family thing. I
Okay.
mean, I've had my mom, she's very, very inquisitive about things, and so I can definitely see some of that. I remember when I was a teenager growing up, being in the bathroom, her knocking on the door, "What are you doing?" "Going to the bathroom."
You want
So
a
I don't.
picture? Sorry.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, it's I don't know, maybe they were worried you're out at the bar or out getting a cup of coffee. Who knows?
I'm open about it. Not
Yeah.
about, I don't drink in the afternoon. I'm not a big drinker, but I'm wide open about, yeah, I went and got a coffee,
Yep.
because
Yeah. It's
that's
coffee.
that's part of why I stayed in the hotel. Is, I mean, they're lovely people. I love my family.
Yeah.
Um, but it was great just to be able to get my friggin' coffee on in the morning and, just do my thing. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I get that. It has taken me years to get to the point where I feel comfortable having coffee around family, which seems so silly because it's coffee. I don't know. It's coffee. That's all I can say.
It's the devil's drink.
Yes. But, like, the logic behind it is coffee's bad. They say hot drinks are bad. So coffee's bad, hot chocolate's good. Energy drinks are totally fine for some reason, but tea is bad because it's hot, and iced tea would be bad because it's still tea. Like, there is no rhyme or reason to their word of wisdom, as they call it.
Because if it's hot and hot chocolate's hot, then that's hot.
Yes, but it's fine. But
That's okay.
coffee, yeah.
But the other hot drink, yeah, and energy drinks are terrible for you. But anyway, um,
Yep.
I digress. But it was curious because that I was out of pocket and not being, I won't say supervised, but that I'm pretty independent. And that I
Yeah.
was being independent for that period of time seemed a little alarming.
Mhm. That is interesting. Now I need to pay attention to it now. Next time I'm around family and see what they say. But yeah, I've had some of those experiences, but I don't know if I've had it that extreme, thankfully.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Yep.
how'd you get out?
As soon as I moved out for college, I pretty much stopped going. I went a couple times after I moved out, but it was not a lot. I moved out at 18 to go to college, and that was, I was kind of done with it. But it took me till my mid 20s or so to finally tell my parents, "Hey, I don't believe in this." Um, and I wrote a letter beforehand and let my dad read it. My dad was a little more open-minded about this at the time, and as soon as he read it, he's like, "Oh, that's fine, that's okay." And as soon as my mom read it,
Oh boy.
she just burst into tears and she said, "I almost died giving birth to you." Um, and my mom, I love her to death, but she definitely likes to play on emotions.
Mm,
And I don't know, for me over the years, I've learned that doesn't really play on my emotions. It usually just makes me mad.
that's what
So
manipulation tends to do.
yeah, and so it was in my response to her as well, can you continue to go for you and be miserable, or I can not go and be happy. And so I've gotta pick me. And in Mormonism, the belief is essentially, if you fail as a parent, if your family doesn't stay in the church.
Pressure,
Thankfully, they're yes, they've
a lot of
it's
pressure.
definitely a lot of pressure. So it does not give you a lot of room to express who you truly are if you have your doubts or if you are questioning. Uh,
So what happens to somebody? Let's just say, for the sake of discussion, someone in a position like your mom, eight
mhm,
kids, two have, flown the Mormon coop.
mhm.
Um, and presumably are still in touch and loving. It's just, this isn't, I don't want to do this particular thing. Exercising autonomy.
Yes.
What would keep this woman from saying, I'm really just, telling about how she feels and what she thinks and why can't she share about that?
Um, I think I think it goes back to that cult mentality of when you're in this belief system, it doesn't really allow for other ways of thinking. It's kind of an our way or the highway. You're raised that the Mormon church is the only true church. Anything that you're reading that might be negative, even if it's just factual history about the church, that's anti-Mormon literature. So anything historical, even if it's the truth, is anti-Mormon because it's not faith promoting. So basically, any belief system other than that, especially if it's in your own family, it's you've lost your eternal family. Basically, I feel like family is used as a manipulation tactic where, you don't get the blessings of that eternal family if someone leaves.
That makes a lot of sense. And it's certainly not unique to Mormonism, but I know Mormonism, family is a huge theme.
Yeah.
But I didn't know. So, what pressure on everybody
Yeah.
to conform?
Definitely lots
Um,
of pressure.
so, How are you recovering from this?
Oh, it's just been a lot of time. I started seeing a therapist years ago, just for so much family drama. But therapy has been so helpful. It's been a game changer. It's been a life changer, and mostly just realizing who I am, finding out who I am, what makes me happy, who I
Mm,
am as a person, and realizing I'm good enough. I am okay the way I am. It's taken years to get to that point. When I started telling my family, it was not all in one go. It was people here, people there. One of my biggest fears was that I would be seen as a bad person because I no longer believe in the religion, and that essentially came to pass. I've had almost half of my siblings say in some form or another, "I don't trust you with my kids. Don't push your beliefs on my kids." Something along that line. And I've had a sibling apologize, which I appreciate, but the other two have not. And it's horrible having people not be able to see you for you. Doesn't matter who you've been your whole entire life. If you've been a good person, as soon as you say, "I don't believe in your belief system," that just changes their minds and you're a bad person. And
mhm.
it's see me for me, not my belief system. What am I
Um,
doing? Am I true to my word? Am I kind? Am I trying to make the world a better place? I feel like I am,
right,
but they don't see that.
you're not robbing banks?
Yeah.
Okay. And doing
Nope.
bad
Well, I
things to
mean,
kittens? Yeah,
I
okay.
tried yesterday, but
Ah,
yeah,
dang
but no, it's the
it.
yeah, I the past several years have just been such a growth opportunity for me, finding out who I am and the type of person I wanna be. I don't wanna be someone who makes others feel miserable, and I feel like religion a lot of the time is just kind of an excuse to treat other people like crap while trying to maintain that you're a wholly decent person, and
Oh, I'm gonna stop you right there because that's juicy. That's a very juicy point, and I see it all the time. Um, or less now than right after I left. So this whole treating other people badly, but feeling self-righteous and virtuous and wonderful because one's being a certain kind of religious. What are some examples of treating people crappy?
It's I feel like the judgment starts on a low level. I've seen it with my, like, nieces and nephews when they were little. I was out taking nieces and nephews to get snow cones. My niece saw some girl in a tank top. "Oh, she's wearing a tank top, that's bad. Oh, that person's smoking, they're bad." Just these little comments when we were out and about trying to have fun. I remember another niece seeing a commercial with a coffee drink, and she's like, "Oh, it has coffee." And, little kids, but at the same time, they see these behaviors. They're kind of raised to see a person is bad if they do these particular activities or they, basically just live in a way that doesn't align with the Mormon lifestyle. And I think it starts at that point, and it just kind of, from a young age, just your beliefs are definitely formed to conform to Mormonism, and Mormon is good, non-Mormon, everything else is bad.
I totally get that, and I do. Um, I can relate to the feeling of being automatic, horned with cloven feet and highly suspicious, um, just for existing. Uh,
Yeah.
excuse me. I silenced my phone and then it came through the watch and it's like, you shush. Like, all right, but anyway, so I had to leave one of those little messages. But yeah, it's an uncomfortable feeling to know that the people around you, you know, are thinking they have grave suspicions about you,
Mhm.
even though, you know,
Yeah.
yeah,
Just doing my best like everyone else, trying to get by.
doing my best and yeah, in the context of the Salt Lake City folks, I had made a trip and I'd sacrificed a lot and, just so I could help with the family matter. So it's like, how am I Attila the Hun here? Wait, I'm
Yeah.
not. Yeah, definitely not. Um, but it's an interesting thing. So that does hurt people to judge them
Yes.
like they're less than or, um, horrible.
Yeah, and for a
Yeah.
religion that's all about family, I have a hard time understanding this idea of, "You're my family, but I'm gonna treat you like crap just because you no longer share my beliefs, or I'm gonna treat you differently." I've said multiple times to my own family, if I had to spend eternity with some of my family members, that would be my version of hell, because I don't wanna spend eternity with people where I can't be myself, where I'm going to feel judged for being myself. That
Yes.
is not heaven to me, that is hell.
Yes, and to your point, um, my family out there have no time for me at all. So it's kinda like
Mm. Yeah, it's interesting, this idea of family is everything, but not really. It's family is gonna be everything in the afterlife, but they don't make the most of this life.
it's an odd thing. But I wanna have compassion because, I mean, I was once, in Christian ministry even,
Yeah.
and I had great intentions, but I had thoughts and feelings about certain activities and things that
Mhm.
I'm kind of like so embarrassed about now. And, I have felt, I don't feel bad about it anymore. Um, but yeah, I had to bring myself up short a couple times.
Yeah, well, and I don't know, for me, I think for a lot of people too, as soon as they leave a religion behind, that's when that whole judgmental nature kind of goes out the window, and you are able to kind of accept people for who they are rather than seeing this good versus bad. You realize life is a spectrum, and everyone falls on that spectrum somewhere, and it's not just black and white, good and bad,
I
that
love that you
duality.
brought that up. It's like, I know this is a notebook, but like there are all these different colors and all these different expressions, and they're all just right. Just to me, it's like out in nature. You've got it all, and
Yep.
it's all fabulous.
Mhm.
It's just different.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, and it's
Yep.
better because of all I mean, it'd be so boring if everything were just so boring.
Oh,
Uh,
yes.
yeah, like the Wonder Bread of, it's like it's
Yeah.
so boring.
Yes, it would be.
Yeah, well, cool. Um, so in terms of community,
Mhm.
um, what's the biggest struggle you've had going from, cult-like thinking what community is supposed to look like to kind of being out of that and having a lot more personal freedom and your own autonomy? What's it like, your approach with community now, or like what's been the biggest struggle you've had?
So finding community, being in Utah, I think it's nice being in Utah for the sake of counterculture in regards to Mormonism. It's got a very great counterculture. I started going to ex-Mormon groups, atheist groups, and that's where I found people who I could be myself around and not feel judged. Um, it's been great to find a community like that, and I'm sure there's not that counterculture so strongly for Mormonism outside of Utah,
Right.
obviously. But it's been good to be here for that and just learn. It
Mhm.
definitely helped me learn so much about myself to see these people who are they're trying their best to get by. They've spent their whole life in this religion. They've been married. They've had kids. I feel very fortunate in that I left the church at a point in my life where I didn't get married and I didn't have kids. I'm the outlier in my family in that everyone was married so young and had families, and I've never been married, never had kids. I was in a relationship for 8 years, and that was shortly after I moved out. And that was kind of an interesting period, that relationship, because I feel like my ex was my community. Like his friends were my friends. I didn't really have that group of people.
Okay.
And then when we broke up, finding this
Mm.
ex-Mormon community, it was great just to find people. It's like, hey, you're like me.
Yes, and you can connect about things. Um, when I talked to people who were in the Christian cult that I was in, um,
Yeah.
it's like you can connect on certain wavelengths, and it's like, oh my God, do you remember either this occasion or this teaching, or like the way money was taught, or the way sex was taught, and it's like, wow, what a load. And usually there's this evolution of messages, so the one true message is like one and true for that moment. And then it gets amended. And then it's like, okay, now this is the one and true. And oh,
Yeah. Oh, it's infuriating. You've got the prophets who's, the mouthpiece of God, and
Mhm.
there's so many hypocritical sayings, teachings, and responses. Well, they're speaking as a man, not a prophet at that point, or but it's who gets to decide that? And it's talking with people about these things that don't that see that hypocrisy. It's so Oh, it's great because it's like, I'm not crazy. This is insane. This is
No,
insane, legit.
totally get that. And if I understand you properly, now you evaluate things from here. You're here,
Yeah, my here.
instead of his, you know.
Yes.
I'm gonna apologize to my glass of water now, but anyway, but but yeah, but just from some third party, and it's like, no, you're your own best authority.
Yeah.
And I really believe that our body gives us messages, and like when we're tensed up and when we kind of have that feeling, that's telling us something.
Yes.
It's absolutely telling, and not to override it with this, well, but they told me this and that, and I'm a horrible person who's destined for horrible things if I don't take their word for it instead of trusting my own, we'll use the vernacular, God-given body. So it's
Mhm.
kind of like, yeah,
Yep.
that's how I feel. I really feel like we need to trust our bodies because they never lie.
Oh, absolutely. And I feel like, in Mormonism, you've got the Holy Ghost where you're listen to the Holy Ghost, the still small voice. He'll tell you what to do. But if what your internal instincts are against what the Holy Ghost is saying, then that's evil. That's the devil trying to tempt you away. And so it's like there's no winning. You can't listen to yourself because it's evil unless it aligns with what the church is teaching you. And yeah.
Let me ask you this: how do they benefit? What's the benefit to the cult with having um, so many people so involved and so much going on? How do they benefit?
I think the benefit for them is it's such a sense of community. It is a very strong community in the Mormon church. You've got, your when you go to your ward, those are people you're supposed to be able to rely on and your friends and people checking in on you if you don't show up to church. So I think a lot of people get drawn in by the community. I think a lot of people get drawn in by this plan that, hey, my life is planned out for me. I know what I need to do. I get married, I have kids, I raise a family. That's, God's blueprint
Oh,
for life.
okay, that's the formula.
Yes. And so I think a lot of people like that idea of my life's planned for me, so I don't have to make any really hard decisions, which is sad to me. I remember visiting my sister one year for Christmas, and I love my nieces and nephews, love my sister, but I remember having this thought of if I had to be a stay-at-home mom, I couldn't do this. I I could not do this. Like I would be so miserable. So I have so much respect for people who, even though it might not be what they want, they are able to conform to a religion belief that demands so much from them. Like I couldn't do it. I had to leave. And if you can do it and stay in and you're happy, I think that's wonderful. But I have to wonder how many people are truly happy.
I loved being at home with my 3 kids. I loved getting to do all that. I loved having their friends over, and sometimes it's still absolutely, it was just, big, there is a part of you that just wants to gnaw your limbs off, kinda going, "Is this all there is?" Like,
Yeah.
when do I get to do things?
Yeah. And
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
I I don't think motherhood's for everyone. I know it's not for me.
Right? Yeah,
I
it's, I will say, I have a grandchild now,
Aw.
and it's lovely, but I
Yeah.
do love my autonomy.
Yeah.
For me right now, I'm in the best of both worlds. It's like I have grown children, I have a married daughter with a grandchild. It's like extra yummy, and I still have my autonomy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
can still write, I can still give readings, I can still do what I do. Uh,
yeah.
yeah, it's
I
very,
think, yeah, finding that autonomy is so important, and I definitely believe Mormonism strips that autonomy away from you. It does not allow you to find yourself.
no, that would be bad for business, and it always is in a cult situation. Any cult, it's bad for business for people to have their own autonomy because then they're not doing what you want them to do. So,
Exactly.
question: what would you tell somebody listening or watching who needs a roadmap out of whatever cultic situation they grew up in, or particularly if, since you're an expert on Mormonism, having grown up in it, you
Yeah.
are an expert in the experience of being somebody growing up in it. How would you give them a roadmap out besides grow up, graduate from high school, don't go? Or do you have?
Going back to what you said, learning to listen to your instincts, listen to your body. Your body's telling you something, and even though what your body's telling you might not match with the external message that you're getting, trust your instincts. You know what's going on some level, and I think for a lot of people, the longer you wait to find yourself, the harder it will probably be to get out.
Mm,
Maybe that's not the case. I hope not. Maybe your family will come out too and it make things easier. But from my personal experience, I'm glad I left when I did. And I'm glad that I was not in a position where I had a lot of baggage tied to the belief system. I am glad I listened to myself and I didn't listen to those external voices saying, you need to do this, you need to do X, Y, and Z. I think my life would be so much different now. And I'm so glad I did not go down that path. But listen to yourself. You know yourself the best. And
okay. Thank you. And what resources do you know of? You mentioned like ex-Mormon groups in Salt Lake City. Are there any resources you're aware of? Any books, anything available for people who, particularly women who have been in this handmaid role, expected to cook and clean up after others, to be second banana, take a back seat, get a second class ticket to heaven, however that's being defined,
mhm.
and want to be their own heroine
I think
instead of waiting for some guy to shackle them up and whatever. It's like, what resources do you know that you can share?
I'd say go find your tribe, go find your people. I got into the ex-Mormon group by going on Meetup, and if you've never been on Meetup, it's they just have communities upon communities that you can find in your area where you go meet people based on shared interests. That was great. I read a book called Combating Cult Mind Control. Um, Steve, I'm drawing a blank on his last name, but just
Combating cults mind control. I'm going to do a quick search on this
okay.
just to make sure I get this right. um Here we are online. Combating cult mind control by Stephen Hassan.
Yes.
Oh, he's the OG cult guy. That's
Yeah.
great. Okay.
Yes.
The Guide to Protection, Rescue, and Recovery from Destructive Cults. All righty then. Yes, Stephen Hassan,
Yes.
Stephen Hassan, y'all.
Yes.
Okay.
That that is helpful. I mean, it does call out Mormonism a couple times, but just these belief systems that are so extreme, you can see the similarities between the two, and you can definitely see it in your own belief system, and
Between the
that
two,
helped a lot.
you said you can see the similarities between the two.
Like belief systems, like you can see the similarities between, all like these extreme beliefs that say you have to do this, 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 and this. It's the same across the board. It's just a different name.
Yes, it is. It is. There's a very secret, special, anointed by our version of the divine message, and this person here has it. This is actually a goddess someone sent me blowing a bubble from bubblegum.
That is
Fabulous.
that is so cute.
Isn't it great? I love this thing.
That is amazing.
Yeah, just this effortless goddess attitude. But yeah, someone who got a super special secret message from the Almighty, the divine on high, however that's defined. And we have it and you don't. And
Mhm.
so if you want it, you got to come to us and you got to do our things, and we get to, yes. And
Yep.
we're the arbiters of this wonderful super secret special thing that was only given to our person.
Yep.
Yeah, to me that's a ringing hallmark.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, something's not right. Either everyone's one person's right and everyone's wrong, or everyone's wrong. No one's right.
Yes. Yeah. When in reality, when
It's
the wind
yeah.
blows, we can all feel it.
Yep. It's true.
We can.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
oh.
Okay, cool. So Stephen Hassan's book, going
Yes.
on Meetup. And, as far as I'm concerned, it could be basket weaving or whatever blows the wind up your skirt. Just, whatever there's interest in.
Yes.
For me, it's been, I've found like yoga and other practices, especially just seeing the same people and going regularly. I enjoy that.
Yeah. It's
But
so important to find your tribe, find people that you connect with on some level. That can be a sense of
yes,
community.
yes, something fun to do together. That's, that's good. Um, okay. Any other resources that have helped you to make that journey, to be on that journey? I mean, none of us have arrived anywhere, but in terms of being on the journey of becoming our own heroine and, being actually kind of being her, right? Like she's
Yes,
on it. She's on it.
yes, I she is, I love it. I would say don't be afraid to ask questions and seek out answers to those questions yourself. When you're told that, the only approved sources are what the belief system provides, don't listen to that. I mean, don't go seek out all the negative, hateful stuff, but try to find that happy medium of where it's just information, not
Mm,
good, not bad, but just information. I
mhm.
think that is something powerful that people can do is getting rid of that fear of looking at anti belief system information. Just realize it's information. It's not good or bad. It's just, it is what it is. I think that helps to just realizing that get your facts straight. I mean, facts, we have alternate facts in this day and age, but find what makes sense. There is sense and there is logic, and you just have to look for it. When you step down that voice that says, don't do that, you can find the truth that makes sense to you.
I love that. I love that. When I was exiting the Christian cult that I was in, because it's all about faith. It's
Hmm.
all about faith. And then the minute I gave myself permission to, and this is back in 2004, to get on Google and search for ex I found a group of ex-Christians, it was called an ex-Pentecostal forum. We weren't Pentecostal, we were charismatic. We dressed more modern, but we had better music in my opinion. I mean, it's a little more modern, but it's kind of the same thing. And yeah, and just and looking at using as soon as I gave myself permission to use critical thinking and examine, for me, examining Christianity from that perspective, it all just started falling in like a house of cards. For me, it just
Hmm.
all went in like a house of cards. And it was because of critical thinking.
Yeah.
It's like we're using logical syllogisms here. We're just
Hmm.
being straight up reasonable. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. And when you give yourself permission to do that, I've found I've made many different decisions in my life moving forward.
Yes, absolutely. You're not trying to fill in the cracks with information that doesn't exist. You're filling in the cracks with actual information that is true and stuff that makes sense rather than, well, I think this kind of fits here. I think this kind of fits here, but not really. And well, I don't know. I'll figure it out when I'm dead. Make
Yeah.
it make sense now.
I have one last question. It's not on the list, but I just feel moved to ask you, how did you work with the fear of not being a good person? Like being other people judging you for being a bad person because, you know,
Yeah.
you, you just couldn't see the value in the same religious activities.
For me, I decided I'm going to prove them wrong. They're going to think I'm a bad person. I'm going to show them that I'm not a bad person. So that way, if they think I'm a bad person, that's on them, not on me. So I volunteer. I donate platelets regularly. I just try to be the type of person where I can be proud of who I am and what I'm doing. So that way, if someone else is telling me you're a bad person, I can just kind of be like, nope, F you.
Right. Pretty much I was thinking of a hand gesture at the moment, yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
by the way, do you know what the history of this gesture is?
Um, I
It's
know with this
good.
one, it was they cut off the fingers. I don't know if is it related to that, like the bow and arrow finger?
Yeah, I thought it was just the middle finger, but yeah, it was the long bows because they needed to draw it back. And it was to tell the French, guess what, y'all? I still
Yep.
got it. You know,
Yes.
yeah, that was so cool. There's nothing dirty about it.
No, yeah, it's yeah, give the world your finger and just say, you know what, I know I'm not. And that's on you.
That's awesome. Okay, one last thing. You mentioned a wonderful celebration you went to recently. Would you care to just share a teeny bit about that? Because I think it's so meaningful and I think it's a lovely takeaway that people can take away with them into their day. after listening to this and thinking about these things that you've shared?
Sure. Yesterday was my birthday, and it worked out that Lizzo was in town, so I went to Lizzo with some friends, and it was amazing to see someone who's so body positive, who's just so positive about treat yourself kindly, love yourself. You are beautiful, you are special. That mean it was such a good experience. I cried more than once. I think all my friends did.
Ah,
It was
powerful.
it was so powerful. It was so powerful, and it just learn to love yourself. You know yourself better than anyone. Don't listen to what people are saying to you that is negative, that is not true. Listen to you. You know you.
Love it. Thank you, Jenny. Thank
Uh,
you so very much.
Thank you. This has been so fun.
Good. I'm going to stop recording.
Okay.